Okay. Hi, everybody. We're so glad you could be here for this next installment. We're actually on the seventh canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's called The Science of God. So it is a great science. It's a great work of art as well. It's a great literary masterpiece beyond anything that we can imagine. It's not from the mundane mind. This is from the transcendent world. This is the voice of God. These are the activities of God. These are the associates of God. These are the pastimes of the Lord. And it's all interactive with all these wonderful kings and sages and stories of adventure that we can't even imagine. And the conclusion of the stories is mind boggling. It's ingenious. This was written thousands and thousands of years ago as a history. So, this is the actual history of the beautiful story of the personality of God, Godhead. And we say Godhead because there's many demigods or partial gods that serve the Lord also. So we're all servants of God. We're all expansions of God. We're all creations of God. And therefore, we are meant to be engaged in his service. So the Srimad Bhagavatam teaches what's called Bhagavat Dharma. Bhagavat Dharma means that we serve the master as our function, as our eternal function. It is an occupational duty. Dharma doesn't mean faith that you would change. It's something that is inseparable from the soul. So Dharma means the function of the very soul, and that function is loving devotional service to the Supreme Person. And in doing so, we become happy. Wouldn't that be nice? So I'll start out with pranams. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Buddhale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaurvani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Yareshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All right. So we're going to get started tonight. Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 1. And if you don't mind, I'll start out as usual. And then anyone else who would like to join in on the reading, please join in. We have 2 chapters tonight, and or at least we're going to try. We can't promise anything, but we're going to definitely try these 2 chapters tonight. So I'll take 15 or 20, and you can grab the next 15 or 20, whoever would like. So text 1, King Pariksit inquired, my dear Brahmana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, being everyone's well-wisher, is equal and extremely dear to everyone. How then did he become partial, like a common man, for the sake of Indra, and thus kill Indra's enemies? How can a person equal to everyone be partial to some and inimical towards others? Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasure. Therefore, what benefit would he derive from siding with the demigods? What interest would he fulfill in this way? Since the Lord is transcendental, why should he fear the Asuras? And how could he be envious of them? O greatly fortunate and learned Brahmana, neither Narayana is partial or impartial, has become a subject of great doubt. Kindly dispel my doubt with positive evidence that Narayana is always neutral and equal to everyone. The great sage Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, you have put before me an excellent question. Discourses concerning the activities of the Lord, in which the glories of his devotees are also found, are extremely pleasing to the devotees. Such wonderful topics always counteract the miseries of the materialistic way of life. Therefore, great sages like Narada always speak upon Srimad Bhagavatam because it gives one the facility to hear and chant about the wonderful activities of the Lord. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva and then begin describing topics concerning the activities of Lord Hari. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is always transcendental to the material qualities, and therefore he is called nirguna, or without qualities. Because he is unborn, he does not have a material body to be subjected to attachment and to hatred. Although the Lord is always above material existence, though through his spiritual potency, he appeared and acted like an ordinary human being, accepting duties and obligations, apparently like a conditioned soul. My dear King Prixit, the material qualities, sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna, all belong to the material world and do not even touch the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three gunas cannot act by increasing or decreasing simultaneously. When the quality of goodness is prominent, the sages and demigods flourish with the help of that quality, with which they are infused and surcharged by the Supreme Lord. Similarly, when the mode of passion is prominent, the demons flourish. And when ignorance is prominent, the yakshas and the rakshasas flourish. Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everyone's heart, fostering the reactions of sattvaguna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. The all-pervading personality of Godhead exists within the heart of every living being, and an expert thinker can perceive how he is present there to a large or small extent. Just as one can understand the supply of fire in wood, the water in a water pot, or the sky within a pot, one can understand whether a living entity is a demon or a demigod by understanding that living entity's devotional performances. A thoughtful man can understand how much a person is favored by the Supreme Lord by seeing his actions. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different types of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity according to his character and fruit of actions, the Lord revives all of the qualities of material nature, sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. Then, as the super soul, he enters each body and influences the qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using sattva guna for maintenance, rajoguna for creation, and tamoguna for annihilation. O great King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of the material and spiritual energies, who is certainly the creator of the entire cosmos, creates the time factor to allow the material energy and the living entity to act within the limits of time. Thus, the Supreme Personality is never under the time factor, nor is he under the material energy. O King, this time factor enhances the sattva guna. Thus, although Supreme Lord is the controller, he favors the demigods who are mostly situated in sattva guna. Then the demons who are influenced by tamoguna are annihilated. Supreme Lord induces the time factor to act in different ways, but he is never partial. Rather, his activities are glorious, and therefore he is called Urushrava. Formerly, O King, when Maharaj Yudhisthira was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, the great sage Narada, responding to his inquiry, recited historical facts showing how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always impartial. Even when killing demons. In this regard, he gave a vivid example. Text 14 and 15 for you guys just now joining us on first chapter, Canto 7. O King, at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the son of Maharaj Pandu, personally saw Shishupal merge into the body of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Therefore, struck with wonder, he inquired about the reason for this from the great sage Narada, who was seated there. While he inquired, all the sages present also heard him ask his question. Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired, "It is very wonderful that the demon Shishupal merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though extremely envious. This Sayuja Mukti is impossible to attain even for the great transcendentalist. How then did the enemy of the Lord attain it? O great sage, we are all eager to know the cause for this mercy of the Lord." I have heard that formerly a king named Vena blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that all the Brahmas consequently obliged him to go to hell. Shishupal should also have been sent to hell. How did he then merge into the Lord's existence? From the very childhood beginning of his life, when he could not even speak properly, Shishupal, the most sinful son of Dhamaghosh, began blaspheming the Lord, and he continued to be envious of Sri Krishna until death. Similarly, his brother Dantavakra continued the same habits. Although these two men, Shishupal and Dantavakra, repeatedly blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, they were quite healthy. Indeed, their tongues were not attacked by white leprosy, nor did they enter the darkest regions of hellish life. We are certainly most surprised by this. How is it possible for Shishupal and Dantavakra, in the presence of many exalted persons, to enter very easily into the body of Krishna, whose nature is difficult to attain? This matter is undoubtedly very wonderful. Indeed, my intelligence has become disturbed, just as the flame of a candle is disturbed by a blowing wind. O Narada Muni, you know everything. Kindly let me know the cause of this wonderful event. So who'd like to pick up at text 22? This is when Sukadeva Goswami starts to speak.
I don't mind reading.
Go for it. Go for it. Anybody else who wants to get ready, get your books ready there, and we'd love to have you read. You're looking good. You guys are looking great. Look at all you guys. Wow. Vangsi's here. Look. Whoa, we got Rosha.
Dr. Sharma's here, Vamsi's here,
oh, man,
Ram Raghava's here as well. So wonderful.
Wow. I'm completely inspired at this point. I want to hear each one of you guys read for me tonight. So take about 10 or 15 and we'll pass it around.
Okay, so we're going to start at 22. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, after hearing the request of Maharaj Yudhisthira, Narada Muni, the most powerful spiritual master who knew everything, was very pleased. Thus he replied in the presence of everyone taking part in the yajna. The great sage Sri Naraji said, O king, blasphemy and praise, chastisement and respect are experienced because of ignorance. The body of the conditioned soul is planned by the Lord for suffering in the world, in the material world, through the agency of the external energy. My dear king, the conditioned soul, in the bodily conception of life, considers his body to be his self and considers everything in relationship with the body to be his. Because he has this wrong conception of life, he is subjected to dualities like praise and chastisement. Because of the bodily conception of life, the conditioned soul thinks that when the body is annihilated, the living being is annihilated. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme controller, the super soul of all living entities. Because he has no material body, he has no false conception of I and mine. It is therefore incorrect to think that he feels pleasure or pain when blasphemed or offered prayers. This is impossible for him. Thus he has no enemy and no friend. When he chastises the demons, it is for their good. And when he accepts the prayers of the devotees, it is for their good. He is affected neither by prayers nor by blasphemy. Therefore, by enmity or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desire, by all of these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful condition, he is never affected by enmity or friendship. Narada Muni continued, by devotional service, one cannot achieve such intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through the enmity towards him. That is my opinion. A grassworm confined in a hole of a wall by a bee always thinks of the bee in fear and enmity, and later becomes a bee simply because of such remembrance. Similarly, if the conditioned souls somehow or other think of Krishna, who is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, they will become free from their sins, whether thinking of him as their worshipable Lord or an enemy. Because of constantly thinking of him, they will regain their spiritual bodies. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him. Do you want me to continue?
Oh, we'll pass it around a little bit. We got a few readers here, it looks like tonight. We'll come back.
I think Jai Krishna Prabhu just appeared.
I just can I welcome somebody? We have a new couple.
Please, yes.
Looks like Deepak Jani and Jyoti Jani have joined
Okay.
today. They're also from Augusta. And it
Please.
looked like they were in the Caribbean a
Welcome.
few minutes ago, but they're in Augusta.
Oh, that's who it was. Right.
I was thinking they were on a beach somewhere. Where
Yeah.
they invite
That's
us?
like-
That's what I wanted to know.
Hare Krishna, Deepak and Jyoti.
Haribol.
They have the microphone off. So
That's
anyway.
okay. We're glad they're here
Hare
tonight.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Haribol.
Hare
Very good
Bol.
to have you. So who would like to read next?
Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
I'll read.
You'll read? Okay, Dr. Sharp, please read. Yes, thank you.
My dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kans by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familiar relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we the general devotees by our devotional service have obtained the mercy of Krishna. Somehow or the other, one must consider the form of Krishna very seriously. Then by one of the 5 different processes mentioned above, one can return home back to Godhead. Atheists like King Veena, however, being unable to think of Krishna's form in any of these 5 ways, cannot attain salvation. Therefore, one must somehow think of Krishna, whether in the friendly or inimically. Narad Muni continued, O best of the Pandavas, your 2 cousins Shishupal and Dantavakra, the sons of your maternal aunt, were formerly associates of Lord Vishnu. But because they were cursed by Brahmanas, they fell from Vaikuntha to this material world. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, what kind of great curse would affect even liberated Vishnu Bhaktas? And what sort of person would curse even the Lord's associates? The unflinching devotees of the Lord to fall again to the material world is impossible. I cannot believe this. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body, senses, or life air. Therefore, kindly explain how associates of the personality of Godhead were cursed to descend in material bodies like ordinary persons. The great sage Narad said, once upon a time when the 4 sons of Lord Brahma, named Sanak, Sanadana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar, were wandering throughout the 3 worlds, they came by chance to Vishnu Loka. Thus checked by the doorkeepers Jaya and Vijaya, Sanandana and the other great rishis were very angrily cursed them. You 2 foolish doorkeepers, they said, being agitated by the material qualities of passion and ignorance, you are unfit to live at the shelter of Madhu the Vishnu's lotus feet, which are free from such modes. It would be better for you to go immediately to the material world and take a birth in a family of most sinful asuras. While Jaya and Vijaya were thus cursed by the sages for falling to the material world, they were addressed as follows by the same sages, who were very kind to them. O doorkeepers, after 3 births, you will be able to return to your positions in Vaikuntha, for then the duration of the curse would have ended. These 2 associates of the Lord Jaya and Vijaya later descended to the material world, taking birth as the 2 sons of Diti, Hiranyakasipu being the elder and Hiranyaksha the younger. They were very much respected by the Daityas and Danavas. Appearing as Nrsimhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Hari, killed Hiranyakasipu when the Lord delivered the penitent earth which had fallen in the Garbhodak ocean. Hiranyaksha tried to hinder him, and then the Lord as Varhar killed Hiranyaksha. Desiring to kill his son Prahlad, who was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, Hiranyakashipu tortured him in many ways. The Lord, the super soul of all living entities, is sober, peaceful, and equal to everyone. Since the great devotee Prahlad was protected by the Lord's potency, Hiranyakashipu was unable to kill him in spite of endeavoring to do so in various ways. Thereafter, the same Jaya and Vijaya, the 2 doorkeepers of Lord Vishnu, took birth as Ravan and Kumbhakarna, begotten by Vishrava in the womb of Keshan. They were extremely troublesome to all the people of the universe. Should I stop here?
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you for that. Good to have your voice back. We've been missing you. Now you got to be here every time.
I'm going to be here next week. I will be out of town.
Oh, no. All right. Well, we'll let you out that one time. Okay, we're glad you're here, though. Very nice. Would you like to read Rama Ragam, Prabhuji?
Sure.
Okay.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay. And so text 45?
Yep.
Okay. Narada Muni continued, My dear king, just to relieve Jaya and Vijay of the Brahmana's curse, Lord Ramachandra appeared in order to kill Ravan and Kumbhakarna. It will be better for you to hear narrations about Lord Ramachandra's activities from Markandeya. In their 3rd birth, the same Jaya and Vijay appeared in a family of Kshatriyas as your cousins, the sons of your aunt. Because Lord Krishna has struck them with his disc, all their sinful reactions have been destroyed, and now they are free from the curse. These 2 associates of Lord Vishnu, Jaya and Vijay, maintained a feeling of enmity for a very long time. Because of always thinking of Krishna in this way, they regained the shelter of the Lord, having returned home back to Godhead. Maharaj Yudhishthir inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna? Kindly explain this to me.
Okay.
I'll just keep on reading.
Yes, please. Chapter 2.
So
Run.
chapter 2, text 1. Sri Narada Muni said, My dear King Yudhishthir, when Lord Vishnu, in the form of Varaha, the boar, killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha's brother Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and began to lament. Filled with rage and biting his lips, Hiranyakashipu gazed at the sky with eyes that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. Thus he began to speak. Exhibiting his terrible teeth, fierce glance, and frowning eyebrows, terrible to see, he took up his weapon, a trident, and thus began speaking to his associates, the assembled demons. O Danavas and Daityas, O Dvimurdha, Traksha, Shambhara, and Shatabahu, O Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, and Ilvala, O Viprachitti, Puloman, Shakuna, and other demons, all of you kindly hear me attentively and then act according to my words without delay. My insignificant enemies, the demigods, have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both of us, namely the demigods and the demons, this time being devoutly worshipped by the demigods, he has taken their side and helped them kill Hiranyaksha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has given up his natural tendency of equality toward the demons and demigods. Although he's the Supreme Person, now influenced by Maya, he has assumed the form of a boar to please his devotees, the demigods, just as a restless child leaned toward someone. I shall therefore sever Lord Vishnu's head from his trunk by my trident, and with the profuse blood from his body, I shall please my brother Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of sucking blood. Thus shall I too be peaceful. When the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods, for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul, will lose the source of their life and wither away. While I am engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and a Kshatriya government. These people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, and charity. Destroy all the people thus engaged. The basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles, and he is the shelter of all the demigods, the great pitas, and the people in general. When the Brahmanas are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yajnas, and thus the demigods, not being appeased by yajna, will automatically die. Immediately go wherever there is good protection for the cows and Brahmanas, and wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of the Varnashrama principles. Set fire to those places and cut from the roots the trees there, which are the source of life. Thus the demons, being fond of disastrous activities, took Hiranyakashipu's instructions on their heads with great respect and offered him obeisances. According to his directions, they engaged in envious activities directed against all living beings. The demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produced valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturalists, the mountain villages, and the villages of the cow protectors, the cowherd men. They also burned the government capitals. You want me to stop there and give somebody else a chance to read?
Somebody else would like to read? That's very nice. Thank you, Ram Raghava Prabhu. Nice. Does anybody else like to pick it up from there? That's text 15, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We've got a new person who's just joined us. We've got Nrsimhadeva, Leela and family, and Radhika Singh has also joined. So we're on Canto 7, Chapter 2, just about to start text 15.
Yep.
All right. Some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, the protective walls, and the gates, gopuras of the cities. Some took axes and began cutting the important trees that produce mango, jackfruit, and other sorts of food. Some of the demons took firebrands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens. Thus disturbed again and again by the unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture. Not receiving the results of yajna, the demigods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in the heavenly planets and unobserved by the demons began wandering on the planet Earth to see the disaster. After performing the ritualistic observances for the death of his brother, Hiranyakashipu, being extremely unhappy, tried to pacify his nephews. O king, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry, but since he was a great politician, he knew how to act according to the time and situation. With sweet words, he began pacifying his nephews, whose name was Sukini, Sambara, Drishti, Buddhasadpana, Vrika, Kalanabha, Mahanabha, Hari Marshu, Utkacha. He also consoled their mother, his sister-in-law, Rushabhanu, as well as his own mother Diti. He spoke to them all as follows. Hiranyakashipu said, "My dear mother, sister-in-law, and nephews, you should not lament for the death of the great hero, for a hero's death in front of his enemy is glorious and desirable. My dear mother, in a restaurant or place of drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together, and after drinking water, they continue their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destinations. The spirit soul, the living entity, has no death, for he is eternal and inexhaustible. Being free from material contamination, he can go anywhere in the material or spiritual worlds. He is fully aware and completely different from the material body, but because of being misled by misuse of his slight independence, he is obliged to accept subtle and gross bodies created by the material energy, and thus be subjected to so-called material happiness and distress. Therefore, no one should lament for the passing of the spirit soul from the body. Because of the movements of the water, the trees on the bank of a river, when reflected on water, seems to move. Similarly, when the eyes move because of some mental derangement, the land appears to move also. In the same way, O my gentle mother, when the mind is agitated by the movement of the modes of material nature, the living entity, although freed from all the different phases of the subtle and gross bodies, thinks that he has changed from one condition to another. In his bewildered state, the living entity, accepting the body and mind to be the self, considers some people to be his kinsmen and others to be outsiders. Because of this misconception, he suffers. Indeed, the accumulation of such concocted material ideas is the cause of suffering and so-called happiness in the material world. The conditioned soul, thus situated, must take birth in different species and work in various types of consciousness, thus creating new bodies. This continued material life is called samsara. Birth, death, lamentation, foolishness, and anxiety are due to such material considerations. Thus, we sometimes come to a proper understanding and sometimes fall again to a wrong conception of life. In this regard, an example is given from an old history. This involves a discourse between Yamaraja and the friends of a dead person. Please hear it attentively. In the state known as Usinara, there was a celebrated king named Suyagya. When the king was killed in battle by his enemies, his kinsmen sat down around the dead body and began to lament the death of their friend. His golden bejeweled armor smashed, his ornaments and garlands fallen from their places, his hair scattered, and his eyes lusterless. The slain king lay on the battlefield, his entire body smeared with blood, his heart pierced by the arrows of the enemy. When he died, he had wanted to show his prowess, and thus he had bitten his lips, and his teeth remained in that position. His beautiful lotus-like face was now black and covered with dust from the battlefield. His arms, with his sword and other weapons, were cut and broken. When the queens of King Usinara saw their husband lying in that position, they began crying, "O Lord, now that you have been killed, we also have been killed." Repeating these words again and again, they fell down, pounding their breasts at the feet of the dead king. As the queens loudly cried, their tears glided down their breasts, becoming reddened by kumkum powder, and fell upon the lotus feet of their husbands. Their hair became disarrayed, their ornaments fell, and in a way that evoked sympathy from the hearts of others. The queens began lamenting their husband's death.
Hey, perfect.
Thank
Well,
you
that was a beautiful reading. Thank you so much for that.
so much.
Is there anyone else that would like to pick up from there? That would be text 33. Anybody?
Prabhuji?
Yes, please. Leela. Haribol.
Very well, Prabhuji. So my daughter will read first, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
O Lord, you have now been removed by cruel providence to state beyond our sight. You had been previously sustained the livelihood of inhabitants of Usinera, and thus they were happy. But your condition now is the cause of their unhappiness. O King, O hero, you were a very grateful husband and the most sincere friend of all of us. How shall we exist without you? O hero, wherever you are going, please direct us there so that we may follow in your footsteps and engage again in your service. Let us go along with you. The time was appropriate for the body to be burned, but the queens, not allowing it to be taken away, continued lamenting for the dead body, which they kept on their laps. In the meantime, the sun completed its movements for setting in the west. While queens were lamenting for the dead body of the king, their loud cries were heard even from the above of the Yamaraj. Assuming the body of a boy, Yamaraj personally approached the relatives of the dead body and advised them as follows. Sri Yamaraj said, Alas, how amazing it is. These persons who are older than me have full experience that hundreds and thousands of living entities have taken birth and died. Thus, they should understand that they are also apt to die. Yet still they are bewildered. The conditioned soul comes from an unknown place and returns after death to that same unknown place. There's no exception to this rule, which is conducted by material nature. Knowing this, why do they uselessly lament? It is wonderful that these elderly women do not have a higher sense of life than we do. Indeed, we are most fortunate. For although we are children and have been left to struggle in material life, unprotected by father and mother, and have been vanquished or eaten by ferocious. Although we are weak, we have not been vanquished or eaten by ferocious animals. Thus, we have a firm belief that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given us protection even in the womb of Mother, will protect us everywhere.
The boy addressed the woman, O weak woman, only by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never diminished, is the entire world created, maintained, and again annihilated. This is the verdict of the Vedic knowledge. This material creation consisting of the moving and non-moving is exactly like his plaything. Being the Supreme Lord, he is completely competent to destroy and protect. Sometimes one loses his money on a public street where everyone can see it, and yet his money is protected by destiny, not seen by others. Thus, the man who lost it gets it back. On the other hand, if the Lord does not give protection, even money maintained very securely at home is lost. If the Supreme Lord gives one protection, even though one has no protector and is in the jungle, one remains alive, whereas a person well protected at home by relatives and others sometimes dies, no one being able to protect him. Every conditioned soul receives a different types of body according to his work, and when the engagement is finished, the body is finished. Although the spirit soul is situated in subtle and gross material bodies in different forms of life, he is not bound by them, for he is always understood to be completely different from the manifested body. Just as a householder, although different from the identity of his house, thinks his house to be identical with him, so the conditioned soul, due to ignorance, accepts the body to be himself, although the body is actually different from the soul. The body is obtained through a combination of portions of earth, water, and fire. And when earth, water, and fire are transformed in the course of time, the body is vanquished. The soul has nothing to do with this creation and dissolution of the body. As fire, although situated in wood, is perceived to be different from the wood as air, although situated within the mouth and nostrils, is perceived to be separate, and as the sky, although all pervading, never mixes with anything. So, the living entity, although now encaged within the material body, of which it is the source and is separate from it.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji. Yamaraj continued, O lamenters, you are all fools. The person named Suyagnya, for whom you lament, is still lying before you and has not gone anywhere. Then what is the cause for your lamentation? Previously, he heard you and replied to you, but now, not finding him, you are lamenting. This is contradictory behavior. For you have never actually seen the person within the body who heard you and replied. There is no need for your lamentation, for the body you have always seen is lying here. In the body, the most important substance is the life air, but that also is neither the listener nor the speaker. Beyond even the life air, the soul also can do nothing. For the super soul is actually the director in cooperation with the individual soul. The super soul conducting the activities of the body is different from the body and the living force. The 5 material elements, the 10 senses, and the mind all combine to form the various parts of the gross and subtle bodies. The living entity comes in contact with his material bodies, whether high or low, and later gives them up by his personal prowess. This strength can be perceived in the living entity's personal power to possess different types of bodies. As long as the spirit soul is covered by the subtle body, consisting of the mind, intelligence, and false ego, he is bound to the results of his fruitive activities. Because of this covering, the spirit soul is connected with the material energy and must accordingly suffer material conditions and reversals continually, life after life. It is fruitless to see and talk of the material modes of nature and their resultant so-called happiness and the distress as if they were factual. When the mind wanders during the day and a man begins to think himself extremely important, or when he dreams at the night and sees a beautiful woman enjoying with him, these are merely false dreams. Similarly, the happiness and the distress caused by the material senses should be understood to be meaningless. Those who have full knowledge of self-realization, who know very well that the spirit soul is eternal, whereas the body is perishable, are not overwhelmed by lamentation. But the persons who lack knowledge of self-realization certainly lament. Therefore, it is difficult to educate a person in illusion. There was once a hunter who lured birds with food and captured them after spreading a net. He lived as if appointed by death, personified as the killer of birds. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hi. Very nice. You guys are great, man. What a nice whole family of that. That's wonderful. Does anybody else would like to pick up at 51?
We've got AJ Nitai Prabhu has also joined us.
Jai Nitai's here.
Yeah.
Please, could you read with us as well on text 51? Do you have your Srimad Bhagavatam handy?
Yes, I do, Prabhu. Hare
Oh,
Krishna.
so happy to have you with us.
So is it chapter 1?
This is chapter 2 we're on now.
Okay.
Text 51.
Okay.
Yep. So this is 2. So we're just about to finish this one, as a matter of fact.
While wandering in the forest, the hunter saw a pair of Kulinga birds. Of the two, the female was captivated by the hunter's lure. 52. O queens of Suyajna, the male Kulinga bird, seeing his wife put into the greatest danger in the grip of providence, became very unhappy because of affection. The poor bird, being unable to release her, began to lament for his wife. Text 53. Alas, how merciless is providence! My wife, unable to be helped by anyone, is in such an awkward position and lamenting for me. What will providence gain by taking away this poor bird? What will be the profit? Text 54. If unkind providence takes away my wife, who is half my body, why should he not take me also? What is the use of my living with half of my body, bereaved by loss of my wife? What shall I gain in this way? Text 55, translation. The unfortunate baby birds bereft of their mother are awaiting in the nest for her to feed them. They are still very small and have not yet grown their wings. How shall I be able to maintain them? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The bird is lamenting for the mother of his children because the mother naturally maintains and cares for the children. Yamaraj, however, in the guise of a small boy, has already explained that although his mother left him uncared for and wandering in the forest, the tigers and other ferocious animals had not eaten him. The real fact is that if the Supreme Personality of Godhead protects one, even though one be motherless and fatherless, one can be maintained by the goodwill of the Lord. Otherwise, if the Supreme Lord does not give one protection, one must suffer in spite of the presence of his mother and father. Another example is that sometimes a patient dies in spite of a good physician and a good medicine. Thus, without the protection of the Lord, one cannot live with or without parents. Another point in this verse is that fathers and mothers have protective feelings for their children. Even in bird and beast society, not to speak of human society, Kali Yuga, however, is so degraded that a father and mother even kill their children in the womb on the plea of their scientific knowledge that within the womb that the child has no life. Prestigious medical practitioners give this opinion, and therefore the father and mother of this day kill their children within the womb. How degraded human society has become. Their scientific knowledge is so advanced that they think that within the egg and the embryo, there's no life. Now, these so-called scientists are receiving Nobel Prizes for advancing the theory of chemical revolution. But if chemical combinations are the source of life, why don't the scientists manufacture something like an egg through chemistry and put it in incubator so that a chicken will come out? What is their answer? With their scientific knowledge, they're unable to create even an egg. Such scientists are described in Bhagavad Gita as Mayaya Parita Jnana, fools whose real knowledge has been taken away. They are not men of knowledge, but they pose as scientists and philosophers. Although their so-called theoretical knowledge cannot produce practical results. Text 56. Because of the loss of his wife, the Kulinga bird lamented with tears in his eyes. Meanwhile, following the dictations of mature time, the hunter, who was very carefully hidden in the distance, released his arrow, which pierced the body of the Kulinga bird and killed him. Text 57. Translation. Thus Yamaraj, in the guise of a small boy, told all the queens, "You're all so foolish that you lament, but do not see your own death. Afflicted by a poor fund of knowledge, you do not know that even you lament for your dead husband for hundreds of years, you will never get him back alive. And in the meantime, your lives will be finished. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C.
Prabhuji, if you don't mind, we're just reading verses tonight because we're going to run out of time. So if it's okay. Yeah.
No
just read it.
purport?
No purport.
Okay, sure, Prabhu. 58. Hiranyakashipu said that while Yamaraj, in the form of a small boy, was instructing all the relatives surrounding the dead body of Suyajna, everyone was struck with the wonder by his philosophical words. They could understand that everything material is temporary, not continuing to exist. Text 59. After instructing all the foolish relatives of Suyajna, Yamaraj in the form of a boy disappeared from their vision. Then the relatives of King Suyajna performed the ritualistic funeral ceremonies. Text 60. Therefore, none of you should be aggrieved for the loss of the body, whether your own or those of others. Only in ignorance does one make bodily distinctions, thinking, who am I? Who are the others? And what is mine? What is for others? Text 61. Sri Narada Muni continued, Diti, the mother of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksh, heard the instructions of Hiranyakashipu along with her daughter Rishabhanu, Hiranyakashipu's wife. She then forgot her grief over her son's death and then engaged her mind and attention in understanding the real philosophy of life.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
And Natai, a new addition to our area here. We're so happy to have you. He's
Hare
just
Krishna.
moving here with his family, taking a job in Huntsville. So we had a nice lunch together the other day. It's very nice that you were here. So that's wonderful reading. We got through this. It took almost a full hour. There were 2 chapters here, a little over 100 verses that we had. So did anybody take any notes? And is there any questions, or are there any comments or illuminations you'd like to share? Anybody?
I have a question, Prabhu.
Okay.
So it's amazing, right? Hiranyakashipu, whenever we hear about Hiranyakashipu, we hear the demonic side of him. But here we are seeing Hiranyakashipu, talking about, that we are not body, we are souls. And he's talking about, different, parts of Bhagavad Gita. We talk about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. He's talking about every aspect of it. And it's amazing, but at the same time, he had that demonic thing. And it's so confusing. Like, for example, when we go out and we meet so many Vaishnavas, how do we distinct between who is a Hiranyakashipu and who's a devotee? Love to hear from your side, Prabhu.
I guess that's a pretty good question. Yeah. Sometimes it just takes a little experience, but we just heard in this previous chapter, it says that a person can be known by their actions. So that if a person is living according to the life of a Vaishnava, and we see that the symptoms of their life produces nice fruit, whereas the demons, it produces disastrous situation, and ruination of the world. So if you see a person's activities, you can know who they are, just like you can understand if a tree is planted correctly by the fruit that it produces. It's either got withered fruit or diseased fruit, or it's producing very, very nice fruit. So then you can know that the roots are in the right place. Sometimes it just takes a little experience, though, with the devotees. And, there are always demons amongst us, people who would exploit innocent people. And many times they prey on people who are good. One example Prabhupada used to give is that the straight tree in the forest is the first tree to be cut. They don't want the crooked trees. The wood is no good. What do you do with crooked wood? You can't use it. I guess you could burn it, but that's about it. So to build anything, though, nicely, you need straight wood. You need good wood. So the straight trees are the first ones to be felled. So you'll see it many times that good people or innocent people are preyed upon by the demoniac. They're always manipulating, conniving, thinking of different ways to destroy that innocence and exploit it. Just like Hiranyakasipu said, immediately told all the demons, he said, go out and find the Brahmins, find wherever they're keeping cows, find wherever there's Vedic civilization, find wherever there's sacrifices to the demigods, find wherever there's, you know, life that is living according to Varna ashram, and kill those people immediately. Kill them all. As a matter of fact, don't just kill them, cut down all their forest, cut down all their trees, burn their foods, burn their village, burn their capitals, burn their towns, destroy them. Why? Because then the demigods will all die because they will not receive sacrifice. So this is Hiranyakashipu's manipulative mentality. Now we know that this is a pastime of the Lord. This is all a great story. And if you go back and you find out how they originally got cursed and then the 4 Kumaras came, you can find out how this whole pastime came about and how they appeared in various lives and did after 3 births, they were allowed to come back to the spiritual world. So it's a pastime. But in our situation, we're real demons. This is not a pastime. I mean, we're real demons. A demon is a person who deviates from religious principle. That's who an asura is. So there's one verse in the Bible where Jesus Christ said, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. I'm bringing a sword. I'm cutting family apart. Why? Because there's some demons here and there's some devotees here. They should be separated. At one point, his family came to get him. He was preaching. He was a young boy. And he was in some house in some town. His family had to come and find him. And they said, come out where your family. He said, no, my family's in here. We're in here talking about the glories of God. And we're discussing those issues together. So anybody who wants to come into that house, that's part of our family. So here we're seeing we're seeing that there's a difference between not only the body and the soul, but those who are attached to the body become demoniac because they become motivated by 3 modes of material nature to gratify their senses separately from the will of the Lord. So anything that we do separate from the will of Krishna is sin. That's simple. So in yoga, it says yamani yama, take everything positive that's good for your spiritual advancement, use it. Anything that's not should be discarded. So I don't know if that answered your question a long way around, but I hope it did.
Prabhu. Thank you very, very much. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada, Hari Bol.
Parvit's also had a question.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and ask your question?
Who was it? Oh, Pavit. Oh, no, he figured it out. Yes, I'm reading his chat. Thank you, Pavit. Thank you very much. I'm glad you figured that out. Don't be sorry. Any question you got, it's a good question. So has anybody got anything else they want to add to the conversation too? I mean, we're running a little bit late tonight, but we went through these 2 fantastic chapters. We got a few things I'd like to recap the chapter in a moment, these 2 chapters. But if anybody else has another question or some other comment.
What I have heard was that Jaya and Vijaya, they were cursed by the 4 Kumar, sons of Brahma.
Right.
But then when the Lord came, the Lord says, okay, for this gross ignorance of yours, you have 2 choices. Either to take 3 births in a position of envy with me, or 7 births in a position of friendship with me. So they thought for a while and said, we prefer the 3 births, even though we are envious to you, but we'll come back faster back here.
I love that. Yeah, that's a fact. They wanted to get back home quickly.
That's right.
They felt the separation, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. But could you imagine doing this pastime with the Lord and having this experience with the Lord? And so Prabhupada said, you know, we're not looking for liberation. We're not going for moksha. We don't care so much about those things. What we care about is devotional service. That's Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma means devotional service. It means in any condition, heaven or hell. So either in heaven or in hell, the devotee is completely satisfied because they don't identify with the material body. So therefore, they don't have the pangs and the suffering like that. You know, matra sparsasti kontaya satosna sukha. They don't feel the sukha dukkha. Everything is blissful for the devotee. Everything is all successful for the devotee. There is no failure in the activities of devotional service. It's 100% auspicious and successful in all regards. So even this pastime, like who was it that was saying this a moment ago? I think Narada was saying this. He was explaining that there's 5 different relationships that you can have. One of affection, like you see the Pandavas had affection for the Lord. But Hiranyakasipu, Hiranyaksha, they had envy of the Lord, and they had fear of the Lord. So fear, envy, what was it? Affection, and what was the other one? There was 5 of them. We had 5 a minute ago. Does anybody remember what those 5 are? I'll get back to it in a minute if we don't have.
Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, are those the 5?
Oh, no, that's not what this was discussion about. That is the 5 rasas. You are correct. But we're not discussing the 5 rasas. We're talking about these different 5 points that they were making. One was envy.
So lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Ajay and Nitai. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so that's the idea. Lusty desires, the gopis. They were liberated by lusty desires. Enmity. You know, we see Kamsa. We see Hiranyakasipu. We see Hiranyaksha. Very much enmity with the Lord. Any of these ways of concentrating on the Lord are liberating. They will deliver us because the Lord is on the absolute platform. He's not. It's non-dual. It's not a dualistic thing. Anything that's done in service to the Lord is absolute. It's not. There's no karma. There's no karma to suffer and enjoy. It has nothing to do with the material world. So therefore, anyone who engages their mind constantly in thinking of the Lord, just like Krishna says, "Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru mami vaishyashi yugdvaivam atmanam parayana." So just engage your mind always in thinking of me. Offer your obeisances and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So that's the idea. It's just there's an old axiom that says, I think Chanakya Pandit had this axiom. It was, get ghee. By all means, get ghee. Beg, borrow, steal ghee. Because ghee is the substance of brain tissue.
Charvaka Muni.
Who was it?
Charvaka Muni.
Okay, Charvaka Muni said that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the idea is get ghee. You got to have it. So in any case, we have to get Krishna. If we have to get Krishna through lusty desire, if we have to get Krishna through enmity, if we have to get Krishna in some other way, in friendship and favorable, that we should get Krishna. Now, our Sampradaya is recommending favorable devotional service. So, Ram Raghava, I saw your hand go up. Go ahead and add to that. What you got?
Yeah, while you're on that topic, I was going to say I was amazed at something. And when everybody gets a chance, you should go back and in chapter 1, look at text 27, where Narada Muni even praises the demons, because he says the demons are able to think of Krishna with such an intensity that you can't get it through devotional service, because they do it with such an intensity. And of course, Prabhupada, that blew my mind. So when I read the purport, Prabhupada explains that just because they can think of Krishna in such an intensity, that doesn't mean they're more elevated.
That's right.
That's the humility of the devotee. Narada Muni is praising them because of that. And one other thing I just wanted to point out briefly, I took several notes, but just because I know we're running short, and I wanted to let hear from you. In text 44, there's a wonderful example that we can all use to explain the difference between the body and the soul. Chapter 2, text 44, where the example is given that the body is lying in front of you. And you remember, Prabhu, we used to give that example all the time. Anybody who doesn't who you're introducing to Krishna consciousness or to spiritual life, you can say, well, just take, for example, somebody has died and the relative is sitting right next to them and they're crying. And you can say, well, why are you crying? And they'll say, well, because so-and-so is gone. So no, they're not gone. They're right here. The body's right here. So that means that the person who's gone, you never even saw them. So you can understand that's a very nice way to explain to somebody that there's something beyond this body, that there's a soul inside the body.
Right. And all the queens wanted to go wherever he went. They were ready to go with him. And back in the day, they would enter the fire, the funeral pyre, and go with their husband. That was the tradition at that time. So can you imagine? But no, you're absolutely right. It's like licking the jar of honey. You never taste the honey. You just lick the jar. we don't know who the person inside is. We're thinking we're Americans, we're Indians, we're black, we're white, we're this, we're a woman, we're a man. We've been billions. There's 8,400,000 species. You've been them all, including Brahma. And somehow or another you got here. But what happened? So the idea is to wake up, Jeev Jago, go to Chandra Bole, wake up, sleeping soul. You're sleeping in the lap of the witch called Maya. And Maya is that which is not. Maya is the illusion. Maya is the deviation. Maya is designed to, really, actually, you want to know who the doorkeeper is? It's Maya. Why? Because you can't leave here until you satisfy Maya that you're a devotee. And then she'll protect you. She'll take good care of you, right? But if you want to deviate, Maya's there to help you with that. She'll make sure you get that done nicely, right? That reminded me, though, when we were talking about that a minute ago about the dead body, because the same thing happened in the last story in the 6th canto of Chitraketu when we were talking about that with Angira and Narada, who came with the dead baby of Chitraketu. They were lamenting. They'd fallen out. They'd passed out. Their hair had come undone, loosened their garments. They were all laid out on the floor. They would wake up and fall out again. This is due to attachment in the material world. The suffering of the material world is unlimited. Prabhupada said there is no pleasure in the material world, only cessation of suffering. That's the condition. And a lot of people say, well, you're just being negative. No, we're being very realistic. Are you going to die? You can say no, but we know that everyone here has died, okay? Everyone will die. There's an old story. It says, what is the most wonderful thing you've ever heard? What is the most wonderful, incredible thing? And that is, you might remind me where this story comes from, but that is that even though we see everyone and everything has died around us, somehow or another, we think we won't die. What foolishness! How can you have absolute proof and still not believe it? It's the trick of the mind. It's the trick of the false ego. And so we can't listen to the mind. We can't listen to the false ego. The intelligence has to dictate to the mind, and the mind dictates then to the senses. That's how those senses fall in line. Otherwise, you're a soul with that look on your face and the chariots going over the abyss, and there's the horses of the tongue, belly, genital, all these things pulling you off the edge because you've lost your intelligence. So Krishna says that the all-devouring enemy of mankind is this lust, Arjuna, he explains, which is the all-devouring enemy of the world, which leads to what? Wrath, leads to madness. And then we fall down again into the material pool. So it's a razor's edge, very, very dangerous. Very good point, Rama Raghava. Was there another point you wanted to make? That was good.
A little addition to that.
Yep.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Inechi anusadi, maya nasbari lagi, hari naam mahamantro lao tumhe lagi. You had mentioned Jiva Jago, Jiva Jago. So I just added this from
You added that to it. That's beautiful. Thank you.
I have brought medicine for the whole world. Please accept this medicine.
Right. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. Well, very, very good, guys. You guys are inspiring, man. I got to tell you, to have this group here is just, this is the A string, what we call the A team. This is the Green Beret. Bhaktas all over the southeastern United States. We got them all the way to Little Rock. We got them all the way over to Augusta. We normally have Dominican Republic here tonight. I don't think we have that represented tonight. Our friend Jai Krishna, he might not be back yet. So wonderful, wonderful discourse. And these 2 chapters are just the start of 10 chapters of this discussion that we're going to have about the life of Hiranyakasipu and Hiranyaksha. So it starts out. Is there any other point, though? I want to ask you any other question, any other point, because I'll just recap quickly because we're already a little over our time. Not really. I mean, we go about 8:15, 8:30. Depends on what you guys want to do. And by the way, if anybody ever has to check out, don't feel bad. We know you can always catch it on the YouTube or whatever you want to do, but we love it when you're here. And we're so grateful that you are. And thanks for contributing to all this reading. It's so nice to hear your voices. But it starts out in chapter 7 by the Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. And the big question was, how is it possible that he's become the enemy of, he's become the enemy of the demons on behalf of Indra? How is it possible that he's become not so equipoised? So this is the big question. They want their doubt dispelled about the equality of the Lord. And how is it that the Lord would even fear the Asuras or take the side of the demigods if he's actually impartial? So in the Bhagavad Gita, you might remember the verse in 9:29. By the way, 9th chapter and the 10th chapter. Oh, Bhagavad Gita is so sweet. So sweet. But in 9:29, Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu, na me dveshosti na priyaha, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, maite teshu chapyaham. And that means that I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service to me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. That's one of the best verses, obviously, in the whole. I mean, what a wonderful verse in the Bhagavad Gita. It kind of resolves a lot of issues that people may have. And so Krishna is a friend. He can be one of the 5 rasas we were just talking about a minute ago. But definitely he is the greatest friend. And certainly he's the super soul within our body. He's the actual life of our life, the soul of our life, the soul of our very soul. So without Krishna, there is no knowledge. There's no remembrance. There's none. Krishna is providing everything here. We're simply desiring. Man proposes, God disposes. And God's doing a great job. We might not be doing a very good job ourselves, but the Lord is doing a fantastic job. Because somehow or another, he's got the lights turned on, the water turned on, the bills are paid. The demigods are somehow or another providing all this wonderful stuff to us, right? And then Krishna's given you the air you breathe, the life, the energy of your body, every pleasure that you've received. Rama means the source of all pleasure. Krishna's giving. So we should have a sense of abiding gratitude that is just permeates our consciousness, because this life that we experience is given by God. It's given by Krishna to us. No one here can say I've created. You may say, no, I'm the mother. Oh, no, I'm the father. Yes, but you had mother and father. Who created them? Oh, their mother and father. Oh, well. But it goes all the way back. Where does it go? Bible says Adam and Eve, right? So we understand that these manifestations are created, annihilated again and again in the life and the day of Brahma when he goes to sleep at night, and then at the end of Brahma's life in 3 trillion, 1100 million years. I can't even remember now. 3.11.
311 trillion.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's pretty amazing, you know. So at the end of that, everything goes into dissolution. So we go to sleep and then we come back out. There's a story about that, about some devotees who actually went through that process in Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll be reading those stories as we go along. So the Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. And it goes on to say that the devotees, they relish topics involving the Lord's pastimes, his entourage, his associates. And it's just like nectar. It's just like drinking nectar. When we get together and we do Krishna Katha, everyone is happy. Everyone is purified. Everyone is made whole. And, I was reading today, now this is off topic, But I'm not sure this is true, scientific fact. Maybe somebody would be able to prove this or disprove this. They say they have. But they say you can take water, just water, creation by the Lord, and earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, like that. So you take water and you can say some negative things to the water. Like you could say words like hate. I don't even want to say the words, but bad words that you could add. And then they freeze the water. And then they take some more water and they say, I love you. And they say wonderful, wonderful, kind, loving words. And then they freeze the water. They bring it out, they take it under a microscope and they look at each droplet of water. And they found that the ones where all the negativity went were ugly, just chaotic looking structures, like just kind of like just blurred it out, just like you just destroyed it. And then if you look at the water that these positive affirmations were given to, they're perfect crystalline water droplets. So how is that? So everything is created right here. You can mentally concoct your way back to hell very quickly. Back to the animal species, back to the amoebas and the one cell living entities. It'd be very easy to do that. So it's a razor's edge. We have to be very, very careful not to allow our minds to run rampant. It's like a little child. When you have a little child, the little child has to be protected, right? Why? Because it's going to go under the cabinet and get the poison out and drink the poison. It's going to stick its finger in the light socket. You know what I'm saying? It's going to bash his head out on the corner of a table. It's going to walk out into traffic. Why? Because it's born in the darkness of ignorance. We were born in the darkness of ignorance. Only knowledge we have is what's given to us by the spiritual master. Everything else is someone's speculation and another rabbit hole that you could go down life after life after life after life, trillions of times, simply to end up empty-handed again, over and over and over and over again. Why would we do such a thing? Why would we do such a thing? It's kind of like what we said, what's the most wonderful thing? Thinking that we will never die, but we know that the body will die. So that's the idea. So we're here to share the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're here to share these glorious stories of the Lord. And in so doing, we become happy and the world becomes happy. The world becomes purified just from these vibrations. We just read that anyone who reads the story of Chitraketu is immediately free of all sinful reactions, even from millions and millions of lifetimes. So try to understand how powerful these stories are. They're one with God because they are the stories of God as they are. They've not been changed. They've not been altered. They've not been deviated. They've not been polluted. They've not been had a hack job done on them. And you know what I'm talking about. There's great literatures in the world. I remember reading Bhagavad Gita from various authors before I ran across Srila Prabhupada's in 1973 or 4. I remember reading the other ones. I didn't get a thing from it. I thought it was nice poetry. I said, well, it's quaint, very nice. Okay, I've read Bhagavad Gita. Next. That's not how you do Bhagavad Gita, guys. You do Bhagavad Gita and you become Bhagavad Gita. You become what Krishna wants you to be out of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not just some philosophy. It is actually a lifestyle that you become. You become the Vedic literature. You are walking, talking Veda. When you absorb yourself in this, that's what spiritual master is. That's what the sadhus are. That's what the brahmanas are. That's what Krishna loves. Krishna loves to see someone who's taken the information, made it a part of their life, so much so that they want to give it away. That's what Krishna loves the most. And he says so in Bhagavad Gita, that anyone who gives this sacred information to someone else is the most dear. There can be no one more dear than he. So all of you guys are preachers. All of you guys can go up and talk to anybody about any of this information anytime you want to. There's no restriction. There's no restriction. You can speak to anybody about it. The first time they hear it, they may not understand, but gradually they will. And I can tell you that everybody can start right in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Dehino sminyatadehe, kamanang javanang jara, tatadehantara praptir diras tatra namuyati, that an embodied soul is passing in this body from childhood to boyhood to youth to old age. And then it passes on to another body at the time of death. This is what this whole story is about. This is what we're discussing here, is that we are not the material body. Prabhupada kept going over that with us. And at one point we thought, okay, now Prabhupada, we've heard we're not the body, okay? We thought we understood what that meant. We had no idea what that meant. We had knowledge, but we did not have wisdom, okay? So it takes years and years and years of the School of Hard Knocks to get some wisdom, I think. You might bring it with you from previous lives, though, and you might re-remember it. I've seen devotees do that too, right? Okay, so they wanted to know why he is always in favor of the demigods and he's always killing the demons. But Krishna's very clear about that, isn't he? Right? Yada yadahi dharmasha, glandhir bhavati bharata, abhutanami dharmasha, tadatmanam srijam yaham, right? Right? Vinashya chadushkutam, right? He talks about why he comes here. He's going to reestablish the principles of religion. He's going to kill the miscreants. He's going to reestablish the devotees. He's going to do it millennium after millennium. So that's why he's involved, because Sattva Guna is close to Sudha Sattva, right? I mean, it's the next step, right? So these activities, now I will tell you from reading the Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata and some of the other books, we see that the demigods, king of heaven, they can be influenced by envy, by lust, by greed, by animosity, by anger, right? They can do that. And they can make mistakes and they have to become purified. In the material world, these are great powers. Even Lord Brahma, his mind was attracted to one of his own creations of the hind. Remember that story? So we can see that these things are there, and we have to be very, very careful because we are immersed in a bodily conception of life. We are. We're very, very busy serving the body all day and all night long. So we're great devotees of the body, but we have to somehow or another transcend this mortal cage that the soul is floating in these airs in the heart. It's just floating in there. Krishna's in there. Super soul's in there with you, and it's floating there. And we have to understand that we have nothing at all to do with this material body. Nothing at all. This is a material mental concoction. We just read that a few moments ago. The existence that we live here is a concoction. And that if we want to not be involved in this type of mental speculation, we have to fall in line with the Sampradaya. We have to hear what the Parampara has to say. We have to get the truth from that source, unbroken, back to Krishna. Otherwise, the mind is many branched, right? And you might just find another philosophy. You might convert from one religion to the next. You can do it all week long. You're never going to be happy doing it. So Krishna has no material body, right? What does he say? He says, Namang duskritano mudha, right? Prapadyante naradhama, mayaya pritagyana, asuram bhava masrita. So the miscreants are grossly foolish. They're the lowest among mankind. Their knowledge has been stolen by illusion. They partake of the atheistic nature of demons. They do not surrender to Krishna. They won't surrender to Krishna. They don't like Krishna. They want to kill Krishna. Now, that is also a mood we just read about. Enmity is also a mood. Krishna is so kind, he'll even save those personalities. And not only does he come as Rama and Krishna and Varaha to kill all these, he does all these wonderful things. He comes as Vyasadeva to give us the literature. Narada's flying around on a transcendental Veena, setting the stage for all these activities all the time, setting up these wonderful catalytic stories, right? All of this is going on. Krishna is providing that for us at every moment. But people don't want Krishna. They don't want Krishna. They want to be left alone. They think they can get greater happiness in a temporary world filled with birth, death, old age, and disease. But that's because they've never had a higher taste. So yoga means to restrict the senses, to control the senses, just like you would your little child we're talking about a minute ago. You don't just let him run rampant. You control the mind. You follow the principles of the Vedic literature and of the spiritual master, instructions of the spiritual master. And gradually, even though you still have the taste for sense objects, it may still remain in your life, you can experience a higher taste. And by experiencing a higher taste, one becomes fixed in consciousness. And then once one is fixed in consciousness, his spiritual life then can truly progress. So the idea is we have to control our mind and our senses if we want to experience a higher taste. Otherwise, we'll fall prey again and again and again, victims to these three modes of material nature. And all the lust and enmity that goes with it. Look, guys, I've got pages of notes here too, just like you do. We end up like this a lot of times because we're trying to read too many chapters. Maybe we should just read one verse, like we were talking about, and just go. That's what we used to study the Bhagavatam in the temple. We would just take one verse. It took I remember 5 years or so for us to get through like the Bhagavad Gita even, So it's pretty intense. We try to get through as much as we can just in lieu of time. But I guess the idea is that the one thing about this demon in chapter 2 that stuck out in my mind, that he said that he would sever the head of Vishnu. Now, I don't know how many times that's in Bhagavatam somebody says that, but that's just over the top, right? I mean, that's over the top. I'm going to sever the head of Vishnu, and by his blood spilling out everywhere, then my brother's life and his death will be vindicated. So he's getting ready to chop God's head off. This is what he wants to do. What a demon, man. And by the way, what you were saying earlier was that he knows all the religious principles, and he quoted them all. Every single one of them. But still, he was in this subtle maya of enmity against the Lord. And that was, of course, a pastime for him. So he says he's going to do that. And then he told everybody, all of his demons, to go out and to kill all the Brahmins, stop all the sacrifice, destroy everything, so that they don't have the items for sacrifice. Yagyartat karma nonyacha lokoyam karma bandhana. Tadartam karma kontiya, mukta sangha samachara. Without doing work for Vishnu, work binds one to the material world. So he wanted to stop all of that. He wanted to destroy religion. He wanted to sever the head of God. He wanted to be God. And you'll find out in later chapters, he did everything within his rational mind to become immortal. Did it work? No, it didn't work. You can't outsmart Krishna. Not going to happen. Of cheaters, he's the cheating of the cheaters. You can't out-cheat the greatest cheater. Krishna can take you down. It's not a problem. It's all a pastime for the Lord anyway. So our idea is to concentrate our mind on the Lord. Think of Krishna at every moment and offer everything that we have to the Lord. We're going to have attraction and repulsion for sense objects in the material world. It's felt by all embodied beings, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. But by controlling the senses, and we overcome these stumbling blocks on the path of our self-realization. So that's very, very important. And if we know the activities and the pastimes of the Lord, then we're guaranteed to be free of another birth. Janma karma chame divyam, right? Ivam yo veti tabataha. Everybody knows that one. So you've got to know the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance and activities. And then upon leaving the body, you don't take another birth in the material world. So these stories are the stories of God's activities, his appearance and his activities. And he comes in all these different incarnations. There's 23, 24 incarnations described in Srimad Bhagavatam here. We're going to study them all. So they're amazing. And it's our job to know these stories, so much so that we want to surrender to the Lord. And what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He says, Yeyato mam prapadyante, tangstataiva bhajamyaham. Mamavart manavartante, manusya partasach. What does that mean? It means all of them, as they surrender, I will reward them accordingly. Everyone follows Krishna's path in all respects. Everyone. Because everyone is proposing and God is disposing. God is taking care of everything for us. Still, fools will deride the Lord when he descends in his human form. Avajananti mang mudha. We know that, right? Manusam tanam ashritam. So we know that they will do that because they don't understand his transcendental nature, that he's the Lord of all that is, that he's created everything. He says, when you finally know the truth, you will know that everything is in me and everything is mine. We are actually the possessions of the Lord. We're his chattel, right? We're all chattel to the Lord. This is what we're here to do. So ultimately, in this whole 2 chapters that we have read here, we know, and we remember the story of the Kalinga birds, a great story, reminds me of the story of the dead son of Chitraketu. And by the way, while the Kalinga bird was there meditating on his family in the trap, the arrow entered his heart, and he was also killed. So don't dally, don't tarry in the material world. You have one mission here, that is to become perfected in your spiritual life, go back home, back to God, and take as many with you as you can. All these demons are trying to take as many with them as they can, but how are they doing it? With the AK-47. And they're going into public places just shooting people up. Everybody is so unhappy here. They not only have self-envy or envy of others, but they have self-envy. Not only do they want to kill you, they want to kill themselves too, because they're so unhappy, because they're not connected to the Lord. So very intensive story about Yamaraj when he came as a child, and they were, because the queen and everybody had, these queens had lamented so hard for their dead husband who had fallen, that Yamaraj heard it, and he took the form of a small child, and he'd come and explain the philosophy to them, and they were liberated by him doing that. So there's so many other things that I'd like to tell you tonight, but I'm not going to go through all these notes because it would just be too much. We're already 8:33, so we pushed this class farther than anything. I'm going to leave you with one beautiful verse, and unless you have any other questions.
Prabhuji, can I make one point?
Please.
So about the Kulinga bird, I was hearing a lecture, and this is the only place in Bhagavatam where there are 6 speakers within speakers. So first is Suta Goswami to the sages in Naimisharanya. Then there is Sukadev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj.
Right.
Then internal to that is Narada Muni speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj.
Right.
And within that is Hiranyakasipu speaking to the wives of Hiranyaksha, the relatives. And then within that is Yamaraj as a little boy talking to the wives of Surya, and within that is the Kulinga bird talking to its baby kids. So there's like 6 levels, and this is the most ever seen.
Where can you get literature of this caliber? I mean, literally, where can you get that? I know it's hard to follow for a lot of people because there's intertwined stories. And also, Prabhupada said it's not chronologically in order. So, I mean, even though it's incorrectly maybe composed or just not exactly, chronologically, because these things are eternal stories. These stories are going on in trillions of universes at the same time, simultaneously, eternally. So these are not mundane stories. Who could write? We've seen what's his name's Iliad. We've seen this other nonsense literature. I mean, Romeo and Juliet. Okay, what we're talking about is real love story. What we're talking about is real adventure, right? His adventures thrill our hearts and mind. They teach us Krishna's love divine, right? And he dances in each heart where he becomes the king. So Krishna is the king of our heart. Krishna is the king of our life. Satatam kirtayanto mam yantantas cha dridhabrata. He says, always chanting my glories. endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. That is the goal of everyone's life. And that's the goal of this chapter, of these two chapters. We can see that has been intertwined in the philosophy, in these multi-stories that are going on at one time and conversations that are going on at one time. Very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate you very, very much being here. Boy, you guys are great additions to the class. What a wonderful program we've had tonight. Very, very enlivening with all you wonderful bhaktas, lovers of the Lord. It couldn't be any better for me. So I am in your debt, and I'd like you to please accept my humble obeisances. And also please pray for me if you don't mind. I think we all need it. We should pray for one another regularly. So great story. I got more, but I'm going to save it for next time. There'll always be room for more. Is there any other comment? Otherwise, we are going to sign off.
Prabhuji, one more point I heard from a lecture.
I love it. I love it. Go for it.
So one more point is how Hiranyakasipu, like Prabhu was saying before, he's using the greatest philosophy to push his atheistic beliefs. So like you said, he's trying to kill the Lord by pacifying his relatives. But then the contrast is Krishna during Govardhan Leela, he uses karma mimamsa philosophy.
That's what I was going to say.
to convince Nanda Maharaj not to do the Indra Puja. So contrasting these two, it's all about the consciousness. The mentality with which you're doing it is that you're thinking, feeling, and willing. Like Prabhupada made this organization called International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So what is your consciousness when you're doing something? And that is the most important, and not what you just say, like Hiranyakashipu is saying the greatest philosophy, but he's the greatest atheist.
Right, that's exactly right. You know, it even reminds me of the story when Devaki and Vasudeva were coming home with Kamsa on a chariot, and he had to come up with some philosophy fairly quickly, you know, to save her. He just thought, well, if I could just convince him not to kill her, cut her head off right now, maybe I could figure out something later. So, you know, people are using these things to establish whatever their goal is, and Krishna did that pretty well too. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, very, very good. You guys are fantastic.
One small comment.
Okay.
Today is the day I believe Prabhupada came to United States.
It is. This is the day that Prabhupada came to Boston Harbor.
This is the day which changed the whole world.
Yep. Yep. This is the day that changed the whole world when Prabhupada arrived at Boston Harbor. So in a song I have, it's called On Jaladuta, He Crossed the Sea. He left Vrindavan's ecstasy to save millions and millions of wretched souls like me. He nearly died on stormy seas. Krishna's visions he would see. And so he sailed on to Boston Harbor and to me.
Very nice.
All right, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Accept my obeisances, and I'll see you the next time. Please everybody be here ready to read. Okay? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Bo.